Hello, leader. This is one of those episodes that I record once a year and only once a year. If you've been listening to the Stacking Your Team podcast for a while, you know I usually don't share much about my personal life. I do share stories from my working life, client coaching experiences, and of course, trends and insights. But this show has always been about you and what you're up against as you expand your leadership skills, your team, and the challenges of building something sustainable without burning out. But once a year, I pull back the curtain. So today's episode is my annual tea, the wins, the wobbles, and what's coming next. I'll also be sharing about some things I didn't see coming that really took me by surprise. It's a behind-the-scenes look at what shaped this past year. If you're someone who leads people, builds things, and carries a lot quietly, this one's for you. All right, let's jump in. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast, smart leadership for women who mean business. I'm Shelli Warren, your team and leadership coach, and your no-fluff guide to building a powerhouse team that actually gets the job done without you holding their hand every 5 minutes. You're not just a business owner, you're the leader now, and I'll help you step up, lead smart, and stop micromanaging. Stick with me and you'll learn how to hire, fire, and inspire a team you lead with confidence and finally get your night and weekends back. And here's the hard truth. The team that got you here may not be the team that gets you there. So let's trade burnout for bold leadership and stack your team. Today's episode is a little different, as the title says it all, the annual tea, the wins, the wobbles, and what's next. I release this episode once a year as a way to mark time, both personally and professionally, because leadership isn't just strategy and systems, it's seasons, it's energy, it's grief and growth. And then, of course, we like to start the new year off with a little bit of recalibration. And, sometimes all of these things happen all at once. And here's a fun fact to start us off. I am a New Year's Day baby, which means my birthday has always been wrapped up in reflection, new beginnings, asking those big questions, and looking back while everyone else is looking forward. This year, that reflection hit deeper than I expected. Firstly, I celebrated a year of being cancer-free, which felt like a mix of gratitude and ongoing worry that it might come back. I have a friend who happens to be a doctor. She was diagnosed with breast cancer just weeks ahead of me, and she had a very different experience. She referred to my cancer as boring. It's true that the mammogram technician found it early, and it was like someone above had been looking out for me. And the day that I got the confirmation call from the doctor, it happened to be the birthday of my dear cousin who had passed away from breast cancer just a few years earlier. Suddenly, I was whisked into more screenings, biopsies, doctor consultations, surgery, and treatment plans, and appointments that rapidly moved me through the Canadian medical system with seemingly ease. Then I put it all aside and tried to shift past it, diving into work and family to keep me from dwelling on my next scan. That's really the worst thing for me. It's waiting to get the all clear after your most recent exam. My goal was not to have this diagnosis interrupt client care. Some of my one-to-one clients still don't know about it because it never really came up during their sessions, and I'm not one to openly share or document my health journey online. I'm happy to report that all is well, even with the hormone therapy and the fact that I'm not getting any younger. My friend, on the other hand, had a very different and very difficult cancer journey. She's come out on the other side now, but it led her to selling her Medi-Spa practice to focus on her health, and she had to give up her extensive world travel lifestyle. Thankfully, she's resumed those adventures now, and although she's suffered serious side effects that at times still plague her, she's got a new lease on life right now. Did you know that breast cancer is so damn common now that it's quickly become one of the easiest to cure when you find it early? Often chemotherapy and mastectomies are not necessary, albeit radiation is still very important. It's more and more normal to find out that someone you know was or is diagnosed with it. Often, you don't know because they were able to follow through on their treatment plan while still working and living somewhat a normal life. And just to add a bit of small town news, my daughter Danielle is the manager of patient care at that Medi Spa, which was bought by a dermatology center. They now have 4 practices in their portfolio. She's been there a year, she's loving it, and she's continuing to be recognized through promotions and bonuses. She enjoys taking on new responsibility and being part of a large team across multiple cities. This year also brought the heaviness of my mother's passing. She died 2 days after her 86th birthday, which we celebrated in the hospital after a short illness. It was almost like she was waiting for her birthday, and then she just let go. I'm sharing this not for sympathy and not to unpack it fully here, but because loss changes how you lead. It sharpens your boundaries, it rearranges your priorities, and it makes certain feelings louder and others completely irrelevant. There were moments this year where I had to lead while grieving, showing up while processing and feeling incredibly fatigued, and make decisions while my nervous system was tired in a way that rest, well, it just doesn't fix. And I know many of you listening have done the same, quietly carrying real life while still being the steady one for your team, your clients, and of course your family. It's not weakness, that's leadership in real life. You may be able to relate to this. I've always been the one in my family that decisions were deferred to, especially when both my parents were alive. They'd get overwhelmed by something and ask me to take care of it, and I did. Elder care is no joke, and some of my clients also lost parents this past year. Others have moved parents into elder care facilities with a heavy heart, and it does seem prevalent that daughters step up when their parents' health wavers and their independence capability, well, when it starts to diminish. Why is that? Is it because it's built into our DNA? Is it conditioning? Or is it social norms? The blessing in my mother's care is that I had already downsized her from our family home, which, by the way, my grandparents built, and I purchased as a rental property. I moved her into a senior's apartment building, and she lived there for about 4 years, and then I moved her to a senior residency. So essentially, I had already done the heavy lifting, literally, of the keep, toss, donate decisions, and those numerous trips to local thrift stores and, of course, the Salvation Army shops. So that the day after her funeral service, it only took about, well, maybe just over an hour to clean out her room at the residency. Still hard, but not as taxing as it would have been, which I was grateful for, because then I only had to close out the formal tasks associated with her death. Okay, my year wasn't all gloomy. No way. There were a few things that happened that I'm still over the moon about. You know, my word of the year last year was simple. And I decided to take a big leap and invite my clients up to the Great White North, albeit in May, when it's warm and lovely, to join in our annual retreat. You see, normally this would take place in the States because such a large portion of my clients live there. But I decided to keep it simple this year, and instead, I invited everyone to a lovely village that's just 20 minutes away from my home to stay in a large Victorian home in a Hallmark movie location. Yes, they really do film those types of movies there. Everyone came and soaked up the opportunity to be in a totally different environment with women who have their back to do some deep leadership work, while also laughing out loud with honesty as they evolve and make the impossible possible. I was worried that they'd decline to travel across the border, but it actually was the opposite. They wanted to come to Canada, to be together, to broaden their relationships with themselves and their Leadership Lab peers. It felt simple, easy to organize, and super easy to make memorable. Right about this same time, I realized that Tiffany, our operations leader, podcast producer, and automation queen, has been a big part of Stacking Your Team for 7 years. And Yane, who lives overseas and creates all of our graphics, workbooks, and digital assets, has been supporting me for 5 years. And Natalie, my video content creator, has been supporting me for 2 years. And of course, Tim, our podcast editor, who is Canadian, by the way, has been making me sound good for 5 years now. What a team. It feels great to have this level of continuity and commitment over the years, and it was especially helpful when we formally launched our sister company, Thousand Islands Leadership Consulting, this past year too. A few more wins this year was adding Ellie, my 6-year-old granddaughter, to the outro of the episodes. She loves to come to my office. The whiteboard, spare desk, markers, and of course, the microphone are her favorite things to dive into when she's here. Seeing her so comfortable on the microphone and knowing her reading and writing skills are so great for a first grader, I decided to write out a closing message for her. We put it at the very end of each episode on a whim, like a little surprise, a smile for those of you who listen all the way to the end of each episode. And her mom, Danielle, was thrilled to hear it. Now, my clients know that I love creating tools, and especially I like to walk them through the tool so that they can use it in the best way possible for their specific business. This year, I created a new tool that I called the Leadership Brief. As a physical product designed to help anyone map out their most important work items for the week so that they're no longer tired on Friday and feeling crushed because they didn't get any real leadership work accomplished. Instead, they put out fires all week and addressed everyone else's needs. I also know that creating new habits and staying consistent, it can be hard, especially with the many distractions that we all have to deal with every day. That's why I created the Leadership Brief Tear Sheets tool that I will personally mail to you quickly so that you can have a simple but very effective way of planning the most important work for the week. I also created a short video that walks you through how to use the tool to its fullest potential. Each tear sheet packet comes with 25 sheets, and for less than $1 a week, you can take back your time, your focus, and your leadership energy. No special app, software, or anything to download. Get on over there and grab yours at stackingyourteam.com/shop, and I will personally mail it along to you. Another win was finding my grandmother Esme's nameplate from her last job with OHIP, which is the Ontario Health Insurance Plan. Now, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you may have seen my post about this with the photo. I found it after going through the last of the boxes of my mom's, and I couldn't believe that I hadn't found this particular box many years sooner. It now sits in my office as a reminder about where I come from, which is a long line of working women. My mom, Shirley, was the oldest of 5 daughters, all of one, whom needed to work. Along with caring for her own family and her sister's kids, some of whom she stepped in to be their primary caregiver for really long extended periods of time, my mom operated a quality home daycare for decades. I saw firsthand how she supported numerous working parents in our community. My grandmother worked outside of the home, always. Maybe she wanted to get away from those 5 kids. She looked like Queen Elizabeth. No joke. Now, her family did hail from England, and she carried herself that way too. She always wore a skirt and a matching blazer with a brooch to work. And she was a fantastic seamstress, often making clothes for her daughters when they were younger. I was incredibly close to her, so much so that I had a meltdown at her funeral that people still talk about today. I was 19. I had my own apartment. I had a great job with a great company, and I seemed very mature and put together. Yet losing her pretty much did me in. I've always worked too. My first paying job was walking neighborhood kids for the first few months every year to school. Sometimes I got 50 cents, sometimes $1 a week. It really depended on the mom's finances. And my daughter Danielle, she fell into the legacy of working women early too. In high school, she had 2 jobs, always. And she often picked up a third at a funeral parlor as the donations receptionist. It's a fact. Working women make the world go round. Independent, self-sufficient, capable, and yet even the strongest among us can waver, wondering if what we bring is enough. The truth? Our value is woven into every life we touch, every role we hold, every moment we chose to show up. My granddaughter Ellie asked me about the nameplate when she spotted it in my office one day, and it was fun to tell her all about her great-great-grandmother, a working mom who made an impact every day at home and at work. Do your kids know about your work? It might be fun to ask them a few questions and see how they describe what you do. Okay, before we get to the things that took me by surprise, here's what's coming up for this year. Let's talk about it. Not in a hypey, big reveal way, those will come later, but in a way that says, this is where my energy is going right now. First, we are launching a private podcast for our sister company, Thousand Islands Leadership Consulting. That's our brand that helps ambitious professionals build the clarity, confidence, and capability to grow their role, expand their impact, and achieve meaningful results at work. You might be wondering about the name. Well, Brockville, Ontario, where I live, is known as the City of the Thousand Islands. There's actually over 1,800 islands in our region along the St. Lawrence River. Now, this private podcast isn't a light version of this show. No way. It's actually the opposite. It's a tough love series for people who want this year to be the one where things really happen for them in their career. Not just insight, but real momentum to shake things up in terms of their performance, their image, their capabilities, and their commitment to evolve, instead of staying stagnant, stale, maybe even easily overlooked, and for some, to be simply tolerated. It's not just motivation. It's a real kick in the pants series that will lead our listeners to making the decision to take their reputation and their career seriously, drop some bad habits that are killing their effectiveness and the way people see them, and instead truly become a valuable asset to their workplace and feel great about it, not burnt out. If you're someone who says you're up for some tough love, but you truly only want the love stuff, this podcast is not for you. You can be the first to know about its launch by signing up for it at thousandislandsleadership.com. That's 1,000 in numbers, not words. What else is happening this year? Well, we're going to be leaning into more local and in-person events, because here's what I'm hearing over and over again. People are craving intimate settings, real conversations, and learning aside others who get it. Not performative networking, not surface-level workshops, but honest talk, shared experiences, and the kind of connection that reminds you that you're not doing this alone. There's something powerful about being in the same space together, asking better questions, thinking out loud, and walking away changed because of something someone said that totally resonated with you. Last year, I hosted 2 live events, and it reminded me of how much I love doing this, so I want to do more. I'm going to be saying yes to speaking at other people's events too. It's a fun way to meet new people, get out of your comfort zone, and learn from others. For my Leadership Lab and one-to-one clients, there's also a new leadership toolkit coming, one that we rolled out at our annual retreat. This isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about giving you sharper tools that help you lead more clearly, hold people accountable with confidence, and stop carrying the weight of every decision and every action step alone anymore. It's practical, it's structured, and it's designed for leaders who want their teams to perform consistently, not run hot and cold, and definitely not needing their hands to be held. And finally, the book. I'm writing a book, but not the kind of book you're probably expecting me to write. This one isn't about leadership frameworks or team strategy. This book is in support of working moms. It's about, work and love and presence and the quiet emotional labor that rarely gets named but deeply deserves to be seen. It's personal, it's purposeful, and it reflects a season of life that has shaped me more than any business milestone ever could. You'll hear all about it in the coming months, and I'm excited to share it with you. All of this, what I'm building next, comes from the same place. A desire to lead well, not loudly, not performatively, but with clarity, responsibility, and respect for the people who trust me with their time, their work, and their growth. It comes from a desire to live honestly and to stop pretending that ambition doesn't coexist with grief. that leadership doesn't cost something, or that being capable means being unaffected. It comes from wanting to create work that actually supports the people doing the heavy lifting. The leaders holding teams together, the parents balancing meetings and pickups, the professionals carrying invisible loads at work and at home while still showing up, still producing, still caring deeply. I'm not interested in building things that look impressive from the outside, but demand too much on the inside. I want to build work that holds people, not just pushes them. Work that respects real life. Work that makes leadership feel steadier, not heavier. There's another layer to this year that I want to name because it mirrors leadership more than we realize. It's the things that we didn't see coming. Let's start with this. Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau? What? Who would have guessed that our outgoing prime minister would somehow fall into a pop culture headline that absolutely no one had on their bingo card? And listen, I'm not here to analyze it, and I'm not here to speculate. I am here to name the moment when we all stopped, blinked twice, and said, I wasn't expecting that. Because that's been the theme of 2025, especially in light of politics and world events. And here's another one that stopped me in my tracks, not because of the people involved, but because of how familiar the moment felt. Yeah, you guessed it, the Coldplay astronomer kiss cam scandal. Now, we've all been to a sporting event or concert, and in a few seconds, there's a camera sweep and a moment that's meant to be light and fun, and suddenly, it wasn't. Not because of malice, not because of the intent, but because visibility changes everything. What struck me was how fast the narrative formed, how quickly assumptions were made, how suddenly a private relationship became a public story. And I thought, as I watched all this unfold, well, it was a mix of embarrassment for them and then horror. Because like you, I thought about their families and how a devastating personal betrayal became instantly public. Ugh. And then my mind went to where every leader's mind often goes next. I thought about the company. Because now, whether they asked for it or not, this became a workplace issue, a reputational issue, and most definitely a trust issue. Senior leadership teams had to instantly move into crisis mode. And then it hit me. Workplace scandals are as old as time. The details change, and the technology changes. The speed and the scale changes, but the leadership work does not. When trust is shaken, either fairly or unfairly, leaders are responsible for how they respond. Not just externally, but internally too, for how safe people feel and how clearly values are reinforced, and for whether this moment is handled with dignity or denial. This moment shook everyone up because it reminded us that leadership isn't tested when things are going well. It's tested in the uncomfortable times. And the leaders who navigate these situations best aren't the ones with the clever messaging, albeit the Gwyneth Paltrow message. Yeah, that was designed to save astronomers' brand. That was clever. But smart leaders are often the ones who are clear on their values before the crisis arrives. So both the splash of Justin Trudeau's new romance and the astronomer's kiss cam public newsflash sparked some conversations with my clients too. Not because they'll face headlines like that, but because they will and have faced their own versions of it. So things like, a termination that rattled the team, a conflict that spilled beyond the meeting room, a personal situation that suddenly tested the maturity of the CEO. And when you're in the thick of these challenges, leadership isn't a concept. It's human. It's heavy, and it deeply matters. Now, on a lighter note, something I truly didn't see coming was the Canadian-wide, and honestly, even some US-wide, revived enthusiasm for the Toronto Blue Jays. Suddenly, people who hadn't talked baseball in years were checking scores, wearing blue, and texting things like, "Are we actually doing this?" And anyone who knows me knows that I am a massive WNBA and PWHL fan. And of course, all things Olympics. But baseball? I hadn't watched a baseball game since elementary school because it was my grandfather's favorite sport, and a slow Saturday afternoon game on TV was a way to spend some time with him. But this was different. It felt like one of those rare instances where we all paused just a little, came together, and then rallied around something simple: the fun of believing together. What struck me was the energy. Heck, I found myself totally getting caught up in it, and suddenly I was a Blue Jays fan too. There's something powerful about collective momentum and remembering what it feels like to root for something together without needing to defend it or explain it. It was just about, being in it. Watching that unfold reminded me how much morale and a shared belief in something is important, whether it's a team, a company, or a country. I found myself keenly watching the coaches and the coaching staff. I was seeing relationships amongst the players, the fans, and also watching how respectful the LA Dodgers and the Blue Jays were of each other. The World Series was a good reminder that not everything meaningful has to be heavy or complicated. Hey, thanks for walking alongside me this year. Thank you for being here, for listening, learning, and leading with me. I'm cheering you on and wishing you all a wonderfully productive and very fulfilling year for you and your team. I'll see you next week where you'll learn about a key team meeting that I encourage all my clients to kick off their new year with. I'll also be sharing an episode with you that showcases how we wrapped up the Leadership Lab for 2025. If you're tuning into this podcast, it's likely because you've grown your business, but your team still depends on you for everything. You know, every woman in the Leadership Lab starts there too. The Leadership Lab gives you tools, coaching, and accountability to build a team that runs without you. No more hand-holding. You'll go from managing people to leading leaders so you can focus on your highest valued work that you love doing. Don't go it alone. We are welcoming new members right now. So don't wait for next month, next quarter, or next year. Join us now and instantly feel better prepared to lead differently by visiting stackingyourteam.com. I can't wait to support you. If today's episode helps you see your leadership in a new way, I'd love to hear about it. Come connect with me on Instagram, where I'm at Stacking Your Team, and tell me what's troubling you about your team right now. And hey, if you're tuning into this podcast because you work somewhere and you want to develop your leadership skills, I invite you to start following our sister company, Thousand Islands Leadership Consulting. Check us out on Instagram or LinkedIn so you can chart your course to the next level of leadership.
This is Ellie. Come back next Tuesday. My Mimi will have another episode for you.